Thanks for the invitation to just represent several authors and colleagues from all around the world that worked in this IPBES, which is the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. And recently, IPBES just launched this report on the sustainable use of wild species. And sustainable use is something really key for this discussion, right? Because we have data on biodiversity trends and declines, but not really on sustainable use itself. And sustainable use is something that we should promote and have particular policies to really cover this topic. And also we have successful examples on sustainable use. So this report can provide some examples also on this kind of sustainable use, successful stories. Yes, so just I can't really explain 1,000 pages of the report in just 5 minutes that Patricio asked me to compile, but just to give you a flavor of the report, and then we can invite you to just read. We had this summary for policymakers document, which is really summarize the key points for policymakers, and the whole report, which is really a large one. But why this assessment is important is because 5,000 wild species meet needs of billions worldwide, and this report offers this kind of options to ensure sustainable use. And 1 in 5 people rely on wild species for income and food. We just saw the examples from small-scale fisheries, and 10,000 wild species harvested for human food, which is really important. So in this report, we divided the wild species in groups, like aquatic animals, plants, trees, terrestrial animals, among biomes, ecoregions, ecosystems, and the practices, the human practices that uses these resources. So the human practices are fishing, is one of the practices, also gathering, logging, terrestrial animal harvesting, and non-extractive practices, which are the use for observation, for instance, for tourism, like whale watching, things like that, but also for other kind of aesthetic values and ceremonial ritual. So these are the uses, and the use of wild species are really relevant for several uses, like also ceremony and ritual, decorative aesthetic, energy, food, feed, learning, materials construction, medicine, hygiene, recreation, and others. And we also explored how this sustainable use can really entails and how it relates to the SDGs, right? So just for you to understand that there is a large potential to increase SDG by the sustainable use or the sustainability of use of wild species. And the report also says status and trends in the use of wild species, and for the marine area, or for this project, fishing is mainly what we need to look at the status and trends of the use of wild species. And what is interesting just to highlight of this is that the countries that have strong fisheries management for industrial fisheries are recovering and have some good examples of increasing and recovering population. But in places that fisheries management is not in place, then we have really sustainability issues. And as also Tarub has shown, and others, we can have overexploitation. Yeah. In terms of indicators, also what I can highlight is that we have the first column is for fishing, and we have several more indicators on ecological aspects than on social and governance aspects. So this is something that we should also look in terms of our research. And in terms of the drivers, as we also see during Mission Atlantic, we have environmental drivers, but we need to be aware of global trade in wild species is a major driver and has expanded substantially over the past 40 years. And also illegal harvesting and trade in wild species involves numerous species and is the third largest class of illegal trade worldwide. So we really need to focus in illegal fishing in this case, but the illegal use in coastal ecosystems as well. And there is a lack of attention to gender and equitable distribution of costs and benefits, which undermines the sustainability of use. And this was also illustrated by my previous colleagues here. And effective governance, institutions, education, and public awareness can promote positive outcomes and mitigate negative outcomes. So here, just a summary that identifies policy options and enabling conditions for sustainable use from national to global scales. So you can see in this green arrow here, what are the enable conditions to promote sustainable use, which are governance that is adaptive and democratic, ensure robust institutions to take care of sustainable use, in particular, not just biodiversity, but also sustainable use. And when the policies are tailored to context, so context specific, okay, not general policy, cannot apply to all the situations, aligns broader policies, is inclusive and participatory, recognizes plural knowledges and values, and shares benefits equitably. So these are the enabling conditions to promote more sustainable use, and also the constraining to get less sustainable use, which have been driving to unsustainability, which means it happens especially when we ignore history, ignore rights, overlook social context, mismatches the scale, criminalize marginalized people, creates power imbalances, over relies on laws and rules. Okay, so it's very general. So there are some elements to promote this kind of policy options, and then we can read more in the report. Okay, one interesting thing just to comment to finalize is that indigenous people and local communities share great values on the use of sustainable use, the use of wild species, that maybe we can see successful stories that come from the past, from this kind of people that really we should learn for some examples from people that used wild species in a sustainable way. So this also needs to be highlighted. And also the importance of a small-scale fisheries. So I think that for Mission Atlantic, and especially for this case study, we could also recommend to look at this sector, which was highlighted previously. Yeah. So there are several key messages, but we can let them for the discussion, if I can. There are also knowledge gaps, and we can also share some of the knowledge gaps, but I think that for now, it's okay. Thank you.